So this week, this podcast is being recorded directly to you from, I'm going to start that, blah, blah, blah. So this week's a little bit different. I'm actually recording not in my studio back in my home in Vero Beach, Florida, but I'm spending the week visiting my parents in Green Bay, Virginia. If you've been there, that's awesome. If you blink, you've gone past town kind of thing. They have a beautiful 95-acre farm in Virginia. But as I'm taping, if you hear crickets chirping, maybe the fluttering of butterfly wings, or even a cow or a dog, that is not sound effects. That is real life right now, things going on here at the farm. So I hope you'll excuse me for that, but I feel like it makes it even more granola than we already are. So as we hop into today's episode, titling it The Eyes of Isolation. Now, as we are gearing up to fall, right? I'm here in Virginia. One of my favorite things about fall, and I will say that I do miss when I'm living in Florida, is the changing of leaves, the crisp temperatures, being able to wear jeans and a hoodie, drink a hot cup of coffee on the porch and cider donuts, right? I've got that kind of wired in me, South Jersey all the way. So being in Florida, I've definitely missed that, being able to kind of snatch, a little bit of fall for a little bit more than a week. I'm very, very grateful for. But as we're into fall, and with fall coming, we have within a few weeks, I hate to bring this up, but daylight savings time. I'm not sure why that still exists, but it does. But how with that, with so many people are going to be exposed to more darkness than they were, just a few weeks prior, and how it can play a hand in the many of us who are already tired, already overwhelmed, already stretched thin with everything going on in the world right now, and how connecting the aspect of our eyes as human beings and how to use that more of a strength than maybe we have in the past when it comes to the stark reality of the aspect of isolation. That even if we're working, we're doing our thing, we're going grocery shopping, that there's still, I would say for 99.7% of us, feeling that there's some aspect, some facet of isolation that's going on due to COVID that is not going anywhere anytime soon. So that disconnection has caused a whole lot of challenge for people. And I do want to take some time to look at that today. And as we hop in today's episode, I want to give a little shout out to the Goodness Chick podcast. We're rocking and rolling every week. And if you enjoy listening and you're interested, I'd love you to hop on goodnesschick.com, now taking Venmo and PayPal as donations that keep this going on a weekly basis, talking about mental health, all things life, inspiring and encouraging and uplifting, and hoping to keep it going worldwide, my friends. So if that's something you consider, I'd love it. goodnesschick.com. So talking about the eyes of isolation. First of all, I think that's a pretty good title. Talking about the power of our eyes. I know there are so many people right now that are feeling alone, still feeling alone since this started back months ago, 6.5, 7 months ago. And it kind of feels like this, for those of you that maybe grew up, in the, early 80s, 90s, those kind of cheesy, after school special kind of movies. I feel like this year has been kind of like one of those ongoing sagas. Like it's literally just not going to end. I'm like 2020, for me has not been the worst year of my life by any stretch of the imagination. Has it been one of the most challenging? Yes, it's been challenging in a lot of ways. It's been emotionally wearing and taxing and has worn me down a whole lot. But I personally wouldn't categorize it as the worst. It's been pretty tough without hesitation saying that. But it also feels like with everything going on that if you were to ask, I'd say your average person, nearly like 99.4% of people, like if you were to say, hey, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, how do you see 2020 going? None of the things, pandemic, all this political strife, to so much, I'll say divisiveness, and people just feeling disconnected more than they ever have before. People kind of putting a lot of their emotion into social media or kind of getting sucked into things that are going on in a way that's doing more negative than positive. And it's hurting so many people. And so with that, this like, middle of the week, back to school movie here going on is, we've got 2.8 months left of the year. And I'll get into things connected to that later on in a few other podcasts. But the reality is, how the heck, as we go through these next few months with a lot of things that are unpredictable, a lot of things that we can't say, hey, I know this is what's going to happen. And so for a lot of us, it is anxiety provoking, the unknown, or it's like, seriously, how much longer do I have to go with feeling this lack of normalcy, with feeling this disconnection for people? So I believe with that in having a game plan where the heck do we go from here? And I know in the back of a lot of people's minds, it's also like feeling weird. Okay, I've been feeling really weird. I've been feeling really overwhelmed. I've been feeling really stressed out and like lonely and isolated in different capacities. But there's so many other people that are also feeling this way too. Why would I say anything? Because we're all feeling like this. Well, so this is where our mindset needs to kind of get flipped a little bit and saying, okay, instead of it seeing like, okay, I don't want to talk about, how I'm really struggling, how I'm really feeling right now, because everybody's feeling this way. And I don't want to draw attention to myself, or I don't want to this, or I don't want to that. And this is where we can kind of like chip away at ourselves, like our actual self-worth, or like what we really need to do to be healthy. But what we really need to do to be healthy is finding ways to kind of express ourselves, vent a little bit. This isn't about a friend, or a family member becoming our therapist. This is about finding healthy ways to really like let some of our steam out. I mean, you have a balloon that you blow up, right? With helium, if you continue to blow that balloon up at some point, that it can't expand anymore and it pops. And that's just like us, where we can get over, pushed to the point of feeling like we're going over the edge, and just where we get snappy, we get sad, we get overwhelmed, and we just lose a sense and a connection of who we really were and who we are intended to be. So where our thinking needs to be, instead of saying, everybody's feeling this way, there's no way I can really reach out to anybody, it's flipping that and saying, okay, if everybody's feeling like this, well, why don't we find strength in numbers? Finding that person maybe you're connected to in your neighborhood, right? A family member or somebody that you work with or a friend, whoever it is, and saying, you know what, I'm not in a good place. How are you doing? And I'm sure many of you are doing that, but sometimes we could say, all right, but we've been going through this now for like 7 months. It kind of feels like the same old rigmarole, right? Well, it is and it isn't, right? Like this craziness of 2020 is still going, and it's not ending to, whenever we know it's ending. But it's still an emotional zapper right now. It's hurting us. It's impacting us. So we need to talk about it. And that collaboration and finding strength in numbers, and this is where it takes a village and community, is so, so, so important. It's so important. And I'm going to get into the aspect of community, in just a few minutes. But this is where it's finding ways to encourage one another, finding ways to just not feel so alone. We as human beings, and this is, I'm going to get into my first point, being the power and the significance of eye contact right now is massive. It's massive for human beings to not feel connected, to feel a disconnect for such an ongoing period of time, to feel alone, to feel like, okay, isolated, whatever word you want to use, is not how we were intended to function. We are, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert to some capacity, all varying depending on who you are and your makeup, we are social human beings. Like, we're not supposed to be by ourselves, for weeks on end, where we're actually seeing people, but we're not connecting with people, is another one right now, right? So, people are wearing masks everywhere we go, grocery store, out, at school. And so with that, because masks, right? I'm not dissing the mask here, cover our expressions, right? We have lost, because we can't, unless you have those clear masks with, I know those have posed problems or whatever, but you can't see someone smile. You can't see when they're excited. You can't see their joy. And so with that, or when they're upset, it's this literal masking of emotions. And so whether we realize it or not, it has impacted us. Like being able to read people, being able to smile and say hello. And this is where I'm throwing out you when I talk about the eyes of isolation. really making a concerted effort to use our eyes to connect with other human beings right now. Other humans feeling connected. The eyes, one of the quotes, eyes are the windows to the soul. And I believe that, being able to look in someone's eyes. What are they really feeling? What are they really thinking? And obviously, if you see a stranger on the street, you can't read them like a book, but, looking at somebody's eyes really can allow someone to feel connected. It can allow someone to not feel so disconnected, and including ourselves. When it's like making a concerted effort, I'm going to look at everybody, as many people as I can, right? You're walking down the street and there's, 1,500 people. You connect your eyes with somebody and you smile and you say hi and you keep walking, right? This isn't trying to like have you go crazy train looking at everybody, but just that concerted effort to make someone feel like somebody. I know one of the things, when I worked as a SAC counselor, that, I would kind of have reflection times with kids. And I cannot tell you how many times that a student would say, I really knew that teacher didn't maybe remember my name in the hallway, or, when they passed me by, but they said hello. And the difference that it would make, that person smiling, connecting with their eyes. And we have people right now going through things that are really sometimes astronomical. Things like, we have no idea. People really don't know what you've been through, right? We don't know what everyone around us has been through. And so this is where it's interjecting compassion and lots of doses of empathy, and taking time just to say hi. Or if you're like, well, I can't because like I have my mask on and you can't hear anything, right? Well, then it's just trying to make eye contact. And I know so many people right now, they're tired, right? You're overwhelmed. You're just feeling like, what the heck? But if you're tired, if you're not in a good place, something needs to be readjusted. And if you're feeling like so many of us are, that sense of disconnection, what can you do to whatever capacity reconnect? There is power and significance in the eyes. There absolutely is. There is substance in being able to make eye contact with people. I remember sitting when I did a homeless for, 5, 6, 7 years, homeless outreach in Philly, and sitting and talking with a number of people that didn't have homes. And, saying just, how you doing? Da-da-da. Like, and one of their most gutting aspects of just living every day was how many people just literally, it was like they were invisible. They didn't make an effort to, connect, wouldn't like even walk over them or brush into them, whether it was intentional, unintentional, but them feeling a lack of value, a lack of worth. And I remember, just thinking with those conversations, like, nobody should ever, ever, ever have to feel that way. And so fighting, even when we're tired, to make someone feel like somebody, I promise you, over time, when we make it a part of our daily lives, no matter where and who you see throughout the course of your day, making eye contact. And if you're all alone and you aren't seeing people, if you're able to even go outside and go for a little bit of walk where you don't have to see anybody, right? Go up and down your block, or do a circle, around your driveway. We need fresh air. We need sun. If it's getting chilly, wear your jacket. But to be by ourselves all the time, it's not healthy. And if you're hurting on the other end of it and you're like, I'm around people, but this whole, crazy adjustment of everything, that everything just is still this ongoing sense of just change and being overstretched and just being, kind of crazy train. I'm tired. You still need a sense of human connection. And so it's giving someone a shout out, hey, I'm not in a good place. It's putting on a note card or a Post-it note, I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to make eye contact. I'm going to make eye contact. And with time, it feels good. It really feels good. There's little kernels of goodness and little efforts that we can do to allow us to not feel so isolated. The last one I'm going to focus on today is strengthening our sense of community in a time it can feel really sorely fragmented, where it's seeing things through others' eyes, even though we're tired and stressed, doing what we can do. We need a sense of community. We do. And right now, even if you live in a neighborhood, or whether like my parents who live I always say like in the middle of nowhere, but they have neighbors off at a distance. You know, we all need community no matter what part of the world you live in. And that community can be 2 people. That community can be 13 people, whatever it is. But this is where accountability comes in and saying, you know what, man, if you're feeling like I'm not in a good place, and even if I'm not saying anything, say, you know what, let's go for a walk, or let's FaceTime, and, you'll be in the backyard, and I'll be in my apartment, wherever you are. And that community is really, really, really important. And this is where, if you have 27 seconds, sending somebody a note that is alone and is struggling, kicking a text, making sure I'm going to write this person every day. And it could just be like, thinking of you. I hope you have an awesome day. Little things. Sometimes we can overthink what we actually have to do to make an impact, where it's like, I don't have time to write a letter every week, right? Well, that doesn't need to be a letter every week. Well, text somebody when you can, but maybe putting a reminder in your phone, or sending a postcard, or, send an email. Our exertions, our efforts can be much more of an impact with less effort than we realize. But community is important. And I know a lot of communities right now, to everything is so different between, what's open, what's not open, what jobs are working remotely, or you're, doing hybrid stuff, or you're doing half and half. I don't, like, everything's crazy train. It's like, flip that upside down and shake it around. Things are crazy, but it's doing what we can do with what we have. So the focus of making it, being aware of the power of our own eye contact, making somebody feel like a somebody, you in turn feeling like a somebody. And on the second one, strengthening our sense of community at a time that we can feel that it's sorely, sorely fragmented, and things, are just kind of like that sponge that, you fill with water. And after a period of time of wringing the sponge and wringing the sponge and wringing the sponge, you could feel like there's nothing left to give. I'm really tired, like that wringed out sponge. I know for a fact of having some form of a game plan is really important when it comes to our mental health. It's really important for us not to feel so sorely isolated, and if you're just like, what, I have not been okay for a while, reaching out to somebody, knowing counseling, connecting with the right counselor can do amazing, amazing things for your mental well-being. And you have only one you. You have one life. Too often we wait, we drag our feet, or we doubt ourselves or our self-worth. And it's like, well, I'll just do it later. Is it really that bad? Well, if you've been feeling funky for a while, and you just have felt isolated, and you're feeling like, I haven't been in a good place for a while. There's virtual counseling if you want to do that. Awesome, easy peasy in your pajamas, or if you're comfortable going and connecting with a counselor in person, to connecting with people that you're connected with, that you've maybe been disconnected, but it's reconnecting and saying, can we talk on the phone? Can we go for a cup of coffee? Can we go for a walk around the park? Whatever it is, fight for yourself, because you are worth fighting for. Isolation is something none of us should be subjected to. It's not what we're wired and created to be. Again, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, having human contact and human connection, we need it. It's part of us not feeling like we're isolated, part of us not feeling like we have no worth, part of us, being isolated for extended periods of time. We can start thinking in unhealthy ways. It's absolutely the truth. Fight for yourself, my friends. And I'd like to hear back from you. Kick me an email at Aaron@goodnesschick.com. I want your feedback. I'd love to hear from you. How are you doing with everything that's going on? What strategies have you implemented and that have been working for you? I want to hear from you. And I hope that you have a wonderful week, and know I'm sending you an abundance of peace, love, and goodness, my friends.